I forgive me everything that I've been holding on to. I let go. Yes, I'm ready. I'm ready for my change. Come on, you know, Lord. Yes, I am ready for my change. Oh, I'm ready for my change. Ready for my change.
Bravo! 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 Well, that's our lesson for today. Always good. Always good. Well, good morning, everyone. It's an honor to be here and to share with you this morning some of the lessons that I've been learning sometimes again and again. And I came across a story I love. As Irving is driving down the freeway when his cell phone rings. And it's his wife, and she says, "Irving, I just heard on the news that there's a car going down the freeway in the wrong direction. Please try to be careful." And he says, "Well, it's true. In fact, it's not just one car, it's hundreds of them." Any of us going down the wrong road? Sometimes we find ourselves heading in the wrong direction. And it seems like things are flowing in a way that are not in our favor. But I'm going to suggest to you that all we got to do is get off that freeway and turn around. And that's part of what this lesson is about for today. Tom Wilson in Ziggy comic strips had one that said, Ziggy was saying, "I think I'm finally over my fear of flying, but now I've developed a fear of airport metal detectors." Today we're going to talk about, let me ask you something. Remember that commercial a while back, Got Milk? Anybody remember that one? I'm going to ask you, got fears? Anybody here? Yeah. Well, I'm going to suggest to you that probably it's part of the world condition, and it's probably part of the human condition to have fears. And I'm not going to suggest to you that it's a normal part, but it is, how should I say, it is a common part of our experience and part of our journey here. But it is, I think, valuable for us to begin to understand and distinguish between what is there for us and what is really not serving us. And I'm going to suggest to you that the experience of fright is a survival mechanism. And it's important for us to have an experience of fright at different times because it helps us protect different aspects of our nature. But we have a tendency to think that if we have a frightful experience and then we can somehow reimagine that experience and then project that experience out into the future, that somehow that's going to protect us from something in the future. And that's called fear. And fear does just the opposite. It actually doesn't protect us. It actually brings into our experience even more of those things that we are fearful of. It is a magnetic energy. And it actually creates for us circumstances and situations that are like the other kinds of experiences, but maybe not to the same degree, but they're there to kind of show us what we have going on in our energy and what's going on in our consciousness. And so when we understand that there's an energy and there's a power that we radiate, and we have the ability to radiate those things in our lives that are beautiful and peaceful and significant and abundant and prosperous when we're coming from that energy. In Matthew chapter 10, verse 28, Jesus said, "Do not be afraid of those who kill the body but cannot kill the soul. Rather, be afraid of the one who can destroy both soul and body in hell. Now, hell is basically a metaphor for that place where we are, the best way to say it is that hell is that place where we somehow feel like we're separated from the divine. It's not a place that you go, but I can tell you, it is suffering. We do experience it as suffering, let's put it that way. But in reality, what hell is our belief system that says that we somehow are, or even can be, separated from the one presence and the one power. In unity, we understand that there really is only one presence and one power in this universe, and that presence and power is everywhere present. Omnipresent is a word we use. It's a big word. Omnipresent. It means everywhere present. And that means that it is present not only in this room when we come here on Sunday. It's definitely present here. But it's present when we're out there dealing with our fears. We're out in the world living our life, and then fears pop up. That presence is still there. And what we're seeing and experiencing is an awareness or a belief system or a thought or an attitude that says that it's possible for there to be an absence of God. In Scripture we read that Jesus said that God is love, and they that abide in love abide in God. And the reality is we always have been and we always will be abiding in love. We live and move and have our being, as Paul said. Paul said, we live and move and have our being in God. And so what that means is that you and I are of love. That's part of the essence of who and what we are. And it's not possible for us to be separated from that, but we can experience, because we are amazing creative beings, we are part of the creative process, we can create all these amazing experiences that seem like somehow that love is not there. We create these amazing illusions. They are projections. They are reflections of a thought and a feeling and a belief that says that somehow there's God here, but there's not God here. There's God out there, but there's not God in here. And we hold those kind of energies, and when we hold those kind of energies, then we create circumstances and experiences that reflect that. It's like I've used this before, everybody look to this direction. We have a feeling, we have a belief system that somehow all of those reflections out here in the world are the reality. But they're really reflections of what's going on in each of us. And we're looking at a mirror out in this world of our thinking, our feeling, our attitudes, and our belief systems. And so part of what we are doing as a creative being is that we are creating with a couple of different kinds of energy. Ultimately, there's really only, according to the Course in Miracles, there's really two kinds of energies in the universe. There's love and there's fear. And those are energies, and they're creative energies. And we are creating based upon how we are holding those energies in our thoughts, feelings, attitudes, and beliefs. And so if we are coming from a place of fear, we're inviting the universe to show us our fears. And so we'll have experiences that will pop up in life to show us where we're holding on to fear. Doesn't that sound like fun? I mean, after all, we go and pay lots of money to go to horror movies just so we can notice and begin to experience that awareness, that feeling of fear. Or we actually turn on the news, which is about the same thing. But we have experiences in life that we experience as painful, certainly. I don't want to make light of that. But at the same time, it's important for us to recognize that part of our work as spiritual travelers, you might say, on our spiritual path, is to begin to help this world to move out of a state of fear. But in order to do that, we have to be open and willing to do that for ourselves. Wouldn't you agree? And so part of our work is to transform the world by transforming our inner world. One of the ways that we do that is by beginning to recognize and understand that we are using our faculty of faith. You might say we're misusing it when we're buying into and we're immersing ourselves in the energy of fear. In Matthew chapter 10, verse 29, Jesus said, "Are not 2 sparrows sowed for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground apart from the will of your Father." And so part of the understanding in this is that everything that happens in life, everything that happens in this universe, happens for a purpose. Now, let me say this very clearly. I do not believe that everything happens in the universe for a reason. You've heard me say this before, but it's important. It doesn't happen for a reason because, see, reason is our intellect trying to figure out why it happened. So we don't have the capacity or the ability to figure out why something happens. But it always happens for a purpose. And that purpose is always for a greater experience of good. It's always for a greater experience of love. It's always for a greater experience of the divine in some form, in some way. And so instead of trying to let our intellect, our ego consciousness try to figure out, because that's part of the game that the ego plays, is, oh, hey, I got this. I can figure all this out and, I can take care of it. That's what the ego does. But in reality, when we are able and willing to surrender to that part of our nature that is in connection with and in harmony with and in tune with the divine, which is love, we don't have to figure it out. Something happens through us that allows an even more experience of love to transform whatever that experience is in our life. Now, one of the things that I shared last week is the technique, a tool that I found extremely valuable, and that's called emotional freedom technique. Emotional freedom technique is a psychological, emotional form of acupuncture, acupressure. And some people call it tapping. It's easier to think about and say. And it is a psychosomatic technique that helps us to release whatever energies are stuck in our energy field, that's called our body, so that it actually allows the energy of the divine, of love, of creativity, of power to flow more naturally through us and through our system. You see, one of the things that happens when we have a frightful experience, and like I said before, fright actually has a place. So when you are about to be pounced on by a tiger or a lion, it's valuable to be frightened. The challenge is that we have a tendency then, that fright, that traumatic experience of fright, and it can be a big one or a small one, it actually gets stored not just in our brain, but it actually gets stored in our physical body. Believe it or not, these physical bodies are recording mechanisms. Do you realize that? Every time we hold a fearful thought, it actually gets stored in our physical body. And so we are creative beings, and so we are using that kind of energy. We get triggered, and those stored experiences get triggered, and we actually then create other kinds of feelings and emotions that are reflective of what we were experiencing before. And so we can have a traumatic experience when we're very young. It could be as interestingly enough, it could be something like a car wreck or a horrible thing, or it could be abuse, or it could be something as what we would consider interestingly enough, as mild as being left for the first time at a babysitter that we're not familiar with. And we can create anxiety and fear based on that, and that anxiety and fear then gets stored in our system, and we create ideas and thoughts and belief systems about that. Oftentimes, those thoughts and belief systems have some other aspect of fear around it. And I'm going to suggest to you that all of our, quote, negative emotions are actually some form of fear. Anger, resentment, frustration, judgment, criticism, anxiety, all of those are some form of fear. At the base of them, there's a fear. But the beautiful thing is, all of our positive emotions and thoughts and feelings are actually some form of love, whether it be appreciation, valuing, understanding, compassion, forgiveness. Those are all elements of love. And when we are holding those energies in themselves are also being stored in these physical bodies, and they are healing energies. And they will help to transform those energies that are in us that are stuck, you might say, in different ways in the physical body and in our consciousness, so that we are transforming not only the physical being, we're transforming the energetic being, we're transforming our thoughts, we're transforming our heart energy, and we're actually transforming ourselves into beings that are here to transform the world. Whether you realize it or not, you're showing up here today because your mission, whether you choose to accept it or not, is to transform the world. And it starts by transforming those energies that we hold on to that keep us stuck in the energy of fear. So, how many of you are interested in learning how to release fear? So, one of the ways that I'm learning about how to release fear has been around for a long, long time. And Martin Luther King said it, I'm kind of paraphrasing here, but he said it in a beautiful way. You cannot cast out darkness with darkness. Only light can do that. You cannot cast out hate with more hate. Only love can do that. And I'm going to suggest to you, hate is simply another level of fear. If you are holding on to an energy of hate because of someone who is practicing hate in their life and world and doing things that are hateful, you're not only adding more hate into the world. Do you realize that? That's a big one for a lot of us. Because there are a lot of things that are going on in the world that it seems like it'd be really easy to hold on to a lot of hate about. But in reality, if we are holding that energy of hate about those who are hating, we're actually playing the same dance. You can't change the energy and vibration of hate with hate. You can't change the energy and vibration of fear with fear. Only love can transform that energy. And it only starts by not changing someone else out there, because, believe it or not, there's not someone else out there. Ultimately, someone else out there is a reflection of something that's going on in us. And so our work is not to try and get the world, them, they, those, others, to be different. It's to heal whatever they bring up inside of us. And so when we experience something that we have resistance to, and hate is a form of trying to resist, when we are resisting something, we're actually feeding it more energy. What we resist persists. And so part of our work is not to go into the energy of resistance, but go into an energy that transforms whatever that energy is. It may not necessarily transform it in them immediately, but it will transform whatever comes up within us about that. And if our energy is coming from a different place and we begin to emanate from a different place, we actually radiate a different energy out into the world, and more people will begin to radiate from that place. We begin to lift up You know that saying that all boats rise together? We begin to lift up the energy and the consciousness of those around us and those that we have an effect on in our circle. But I'm absolutely convinced it's not just in our circle. I think it's throughout all of humanity. I really believe that we are here to raise the consciousness of all humanity. And we do that not by resisting, but by transforming. So you ready to get plugged in and be a transformer? All right, so how many of you actually were here last week and got to do some tapping with us? A few of you were. How many of you have done tapping with me before? Okay. Before we go into doing a tapping routine, we're actually going to have another song, and this is going to be our meditation. We're going to do a tapping series, a tapping meditation that is based on releasing whatever is coming up for us in fear. And I'm going to kind of walk you through an exercise with that. But before we do, I'm going to invite our musicians to come up. We're going to have a song, and then we're going to do our tapping work.
You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of love. I hold you in my heart. You are my family. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God.
So for this meditation, I'm going to invite you to keep your eyes open. And I invite you to simply watch and follow along with me as we go through this. And just do it in a reflective, meditative sense, in a place of stillness and a place of peace. But we're going to be doing some tapping, and we're going to tap on different points. And so just simply watch me and you'll find out where the points are. And then you're going to repeat back things that I say, and you're going to fill in the blanks. You get to fill in the blanks of what's going on for you in life. And so if you can think about a particular something that is coming in your world that you have some anxiety or fear about. Anybody have any of those? So just hold one. Just hold one in your thought of something that you are anxious about or fearful about, concerned about, whatever that might be. And just give that thought, that feeling, that experience a one-word title. And have it be something that is I am afraid of blank. And just give that title. And then let's begin doing tapping by tapping on the side of the hand on the karate chop point. And just keep your eyes open and stay with me here. Even though I have this fear of, fill in the blank, I deeply and profoundly love and accept myself. Even though I have this fear, I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though I have this fear of, fill in the blank, I love and accept me. And let's start up here at the eyebrow. This fear. Side of the eye. This fear. Under the eye. This fear. Under the nose. This fear. On the chin. This fear. On the collarbone. This fear. Under your arm. This fear. And the top of the head, this fear. All right, take a nice deep breath. Take one more nice deep breath. Now, on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being not intense at all, 10 being totally intense, if it was a 10 before, what would you say it is now? If it were a 10 before, where would you say it is? 4? You just go ahead and call them out. Okay. Still a 10? Okay, we'll do some more. 6? 3? 5? Good. So, how many of you did not come down? Okay, we have a few. How many of you did the energy come down? That's most of the room. Good. So let's do a little bit more. Even though, let's tie the hand. And one of the things I invite you to do is to really just focus in on that thought and that feeling of that fear. And if there's images that come to you about that, kind of hold an awareness of that image. Paul said, perfect love casts out fear. Now, I'm not going to be arrogant enough to say that I absolutely know what perfect love is, but I can tell you, and I'm certain, that it is not there unless it includes love of self. Does that make sense? Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself. And thus we're loving ourselves. We don't have the capacity to really love our neighbors. And so be open and be willing to love that part of you that feels the fear. So one of the things I invite you to do is to think about that fear and then notice where you possibly are feeling it in your physical body. Are you feeling it in your chest? Are you feeling it in your stomach? Are you feeling it in your head? Are you feeling it in your back? Perhaps it's somewhere in a constriction of your breathing. And just notice where that is. And see if you can get in touch with that part of you that feels that fear. Just notice that part of you. Just notice where it is. Just observe. And let's continue. Even though I still have this fear of, I deeply and profoundly love and accept myself. Or at least I'm willing to. And even though I may not be able to love and accept myself, because I got all this fear, I love and accept myself anyway. And I'm willing to love that part of me that doesn't know how to love myself. Right up here. All the rest of this fear. All the remainder of this fear of. Everything left of this fear of. Anything that remains of this fear of. All the remainder of this fear of. Anything left of this fear of. I love and accept myself anyway. At least I'm willing to. And I'm open for help. All the remainder of this fear. Take a nice deep breath. One more nice deep breath. All right, if it were a 10 before, what would you say it is now? Still 10? Okay, we can talk. We have Tuesday night. We're going to do some more of this, and you'll see there was a shift. All right, someone else? Who didn't go down? Who did? How many of you, the energy around went down? Most of the room. Super. All right. So did it go down? So if it was a 10 before, what would you say it is now? 6. 1. Good. 4. Yeah. 4. Okay. So here's the thing. One of the things that we've learned in this kind of work is that if we can get it down to below a 1 or to a 0, it doesn't come back. And so what I encourage you and invite you to do is we can do more of this coming Tuesday and the following Tuesday. If you're interested in coming and doing some releasing work or releasing these fears, and not just this fear, but the interesting thing is that as we begin to release even one fear, there's kind of a domino effect. It really begins to release fears. It's going to be in this room next door, about around the corner here. Parking is free. Don't be afraid of that. So that's our meditation and our lesson for this week. I encourage you to continue doing this tapping work. If you'd like more information, you can go out to EFT Universe, or you can go to my website called Tapping Into Wholeness, and we'll be doing some more tapping on Tuesday night. Yes, Roberta?
When you said to try to feel where it is in your body,
Mm-hmm.
as soon as I felt where it was, it went down.
It dissipated, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
And it was only the first point.
Yeah.
Tapping.
Yeah, that's often the case. It's like when you just begin to notice it and then send an energy of love to it and do this tapping work with it. It's amazing how it just begins to dissipate. You know, the thing about fear is, how many of you know this? You've probably heard this before. Fear, false expectations appearing real. There's no truth in it. And that's our lesson for this week, and really take some time to do your own tapping. You can do many good things with this, and we're going to have some time if you want to come join us on Tuesday night. We'll be doing some more of this about whatever is bothering you, whatever is coming up for you, whatever fears come up, or whatever concerns you have. So, 7 o'clock. It's an hour and a half. 7. We'll be working from 7 to 8:30. So come join us. That's our lesson.